Throughout history, pandemics have been one of the greatest challenges humanity has faced. Beyond the suffering and loss of lives, these health crises have transformed societies, economies, and cultures in profound ways, often invisible or unrecorded in history books. While the most well-known pandemics, such as the Black Death, the Spanish flu, and the recent COVID-19 pandemic, have left an indelible impact, there are lesser-told stories that reveal the true extent of these tragedies and their hidden consequences. This text delves into the untold aspects of pandemics, their origins, the fateful decisions made, the forgotten victims, and the lessons we have yet to learn. Pandemics in antiquity, an unknown enemy? Although the concept of a pandemic was formalized with scientific advancement, infectious diseases have existed since humans began forming sedentary communities. Early civilizations such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley experienced epidemic outbreaks, though many remained unrecorded due to the lack of writing or medical knowledge. One of the earliest documented pandemics was the Plague of Athens, 430 to 426 BC, that broke out during the Peloponnesian War. Historian Thucydides, who survived the disease, described terrifying symptoms. Although its cause is still debated, it is suspected to be typhoid fever or Ebola. What is not always mentioned is how this pandemic significantly weakened Athens, contributing to its defeat by Sparta. Beyond the tragedy, this plague marked a turning point in Greece's history and possibly in the political evolution of the Western world. Another less-known pandemic is the Antonine Plague, 165 to 180 AD, which affected the Roman Empire under the rule of Marcus Aurelius. Believed to be smallpox or measles, it killed millions. The Antonine Plague weakened Roman borders and contributed to the empire's later instability. However, what is rarely mentioned is how the plague gave rise to cultural changes. As the ancient Roman religious structures collapsed, many sought solace in new beliefs, including Christianity, which was beginning to spread. In that sense, pandemics not only destroy societies, but also shape them. The Black Death. More than a healthcare catastrophe in the 14th century, the Black Death, one of the most devastating pandemics in history, swept through Europe, Asia, and North Africa. The cause, the bacteria Yersinia pestis, was transmitted through fleas infesting rats, and its spread was facilitated by long-distance trade and unsanitary conditions in medieval cities. What is known about the Black Death is its immense human cost and how it marked the end of the Middle Ages. But what is rarely mentioned is how its social and economic consequences transformed the world deeply. With the population decimated, labor became scarce, giving peasants more power to negotiate better working conditions. This weakened feudal structures accelerated the collapse of a serf-based economy. The Black Death paved the way for the Renaissance. However, the plague also triggered waves of hatred and persecution. Jewish communities accused of poisoning wells were attacked and exterminated. This demonstrates not only the psychological impact of pandemics, which often generate paranoia and xenophobia, but also how misinformation and fear can be more lethal than the disease itself. Colonization and invisible pandemics, an often overlooked aspect of pandemics, is their role in the colonization of the Americas and other parts of the world. When Europeans arrived on the American continent, they brought with them diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, against which indigenous peoples had no immunity. These diseases devastated indigenous populations, with estimates suggesting that up to 90% of the population died in some areas, facilitating European conquest. An emblematic case was the fall of the Aztec Empire. Although Hernán Cortés and his men are traditionally presented as responsible for this conquest, smallpox was the true conqueror. Introduced by an African slave traveling with the Spaniards, the disease quickly spread throughout the empire, killing thousands, including Emperor Cuitlahuac. This internal weakening made the Aztecs unable to resist the invasion. In other parts of the world, such as Australia and the Pacific, the arrival of European settlers also brought pandemics that devastated indigenous populations. These tragedies are often minimized in historical accounts, but their impact was so profound that they forever altered the demographics and cultures of entire regions. The Spanish flu and hidden consequences. The 1918 Spanish flu was one of the deadliest pandemics in modern history, with over 50 million deaths worldwide. What makes it unique is that it occurred in the midst of World War I, which exacerbated its effects. Although it is called Spanish, it did not originate in Spain. The name arose because Spain, being neutral in the war, did not censor information about the disease, unlike other countries. What is rarely mentioned is how censorship and misinformation contributed to the virus's spread. Governments of countries at war downplayed the seriousness of the disease to keep morale high, which prevented people from taking preventive measures. Moreover, troop mobilization and the concentration of soldiers in unsanitary conditions served as a breeding ground for the disease. The Spanish flu not only left demographic scars, but also psychological and cultural ones. Socially, it reinforced the importance of public health and paved the way for the creation of international organizations such as the World Health Organization. However, its impact on poorer and marginalized communities is often overlooked, showing how pandemics exacerbate existing inequalities. HIV/AIDS, a silent pandemic. HIV/AIDS, which emerged in the 1980s, is a pandemic that continues to affect millions of people worldwide.